What's up, trade crew? Welcome back to HVAC R&D, hosted by HVAC Rhino. It's been a fun last few weeks getting the show back underway. I'm very excited about tonight's guest. It's been a long time coming. And you know, HVAC R&D is powered by, well, actually, insert your company name here, because that's right. I'm still looking for the next powered by sponsor for the show. We do have a lot to get to tonight, so without further ado, let's get it going. Yeah, come on. So welcome back, everybody. Like I said, HVAC R&D is looking for our next powered by sponsor. If you're interested, please reach out via hvacrnd.com or shoot me an email at hvacrnd@gmail.com and I'll send you the 2024 press kit. Additionally, R&D is supported by platinum sponsor One Thing Marketing, your trusted marketing partner for helping you make your business successful through all means possible. Reach out, schedule a meeting with them today through their link in the hvacrnd.com vendor hub, because one thing can change everything. I'm also grateful to the AHR Expo and Bosch for their support to lead and be part of the 2024 AHR Workforce Development Team that has been working with Chicago's Prosser Career Academy and High School. They're a local high school with a dedicated HVAC program as well as other trades, and we're helping to bring the next group of tradespeople to the industry. Additionally, thanks to my company, Insight Partners and Hobbs & Associates, and our family of brands for their support of me on this venture. And also a special thanks to Melissa Chesney and the team from Midwest USA located Moore Sales Corporation for their additional boots on the ground support in Chicago. If this is your first time listening to the show, I welcome you and thank you so much for taking your time to give R&D a shot. We are based in North Carolina, and this show is focused on research and development within the trades. The main objective is the pursuit of building a better, more knowledgeable community of HVAC professionals, fellow tradespeople, and learning from our pasts to embrace new advances and move everything in the industry forward for a better future. If you're not following us online, you can find the show on Instagram and TikTok at hvac.rnd, LinkedIn, TradeHounds, and Facebook. We are on there as the HVAC R&D podcast. If you're not listening to each week's shows, you can find them on all of your favorite podcasting platforms, from Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Spotify, and at least another 20 platforms. So please follow, like, and rate the show. Leave me a review, share me with your trade crew. If you want to work with me and you're interested in being a sponsor again, just reach out through the website. And while you're there, make sure to check out the swag shop. And you can still use discount code AHR for 25% off all purchases with your visit. And then you can also join the mailing list at the bottom of the page. Okay. All right. Scripted part's over. You know what, fellas and ladies? It is time for a show I have anticipated for many, many weeks, many months before that. You all know him from Instagram for pictures of his work, funny memes, his business mindset talks, job site walkthroughs, and so much more. He's also the first owner-operator to have suited up his entire team in HVAC R&D trade crew swag, so appreciate that. So please welcome my friend Richie Polenz of ThermoSource Mechanical. He's on Instagram as @Richie Lenz, LENZ_HVAC, and on the HVAC social media scene. So, welcome to the show, my brother. Thank you for your time.
Dude, Rhydon, first of all, thank you for that great introduction, man. That was awesome. I appreciate you so much, dude, and everything you do. Big fan of the show. Big fan of everything you're doing on Instagram. So yeah, man, thanks for having me.
No, absolutely. I'm stoked. You know, we've talked a lot the last couple of months, just back and forth, kind of slowly getting to know each other. But I felt it was well past time. was well past time to get you on here with me.
Love it. Yeah, man. Super, super happy to be here.
So, as you know, when you come on this show, we typically share a beverage of choice. And
yes, sir.
If you're ready, the guests go first.
All right. I got a Shiner Bock with me. It's a, what is it? It's just I think it's just a regular lager brewed in Shiner, Texas. It's a leftover brewski I had from my son's first birthday. We had a Western theme. It was called
Nice.
How the West Was Won, and we filled up the fridge with all beers brewed in the West. And
please tell me there was at least something John Wayne themed.
No, oh my gosh, there wasn't.
Oh no, I will not tell HVAC God. He will be very sad.
Yeah, no. But we had a blast, and this is what we got left over. I got the Shiner Bock, which I love, by the way. Shout out to Shiner Bock. It's fantastic. It's the first time having it. So I'll waste no more time. Let me crack this thing open. Oh man, it's been a long day.
I feel you on that.
What do you got going on over there?
So, talking about classic beers, I've got a throwback old school, multiple cold and domestic here. I featured one on a story a while back, but this will be about a month since then, so probably nobody's going to remember. So, I am drinking a freshly original Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Nice, bro. Cheers.
Cheers, sir.
Cheers, man.
So, all right. So now the important question: how could you forget John Wayne? No.
I don't know. I don't know what to
You know,
look, I'm from Long Island, New York. You know,
that's true. That's true.
I have the best interests at heart, I swear.
I
didn't grow up in the country, but I discovered it as an HVAC tech. Discovered hunting, seeing other guys in the trade hunting and stuff like that. And when I was at school, I was upstate New York. I went to school, and my roommate was up in way up north in New York, and big in the country, and that's where it all sparked my interest. I think the first music I heard I was really into was just Jason Aldean. But that was, 2011. But yeah, that's my history with the countryside.
Yeah, so I grew up, like I said, I grew up in the mountains of North Carolina, but my dad was from New Orleans, so I had a Cajun country raising, I guess you could say. So, and everybody knows Dad is Cajun Joe. But he raised me on John Wayne. I don't know if there was a John Wayne movie I didn't see as a child, and I've still got quite a collection of them myself. They're just, what's funny is I think I actually like a lot of his war movies even more than some of his cowboy movies.
Oh man, you know what? They don't make movies like this anymore. They don't exist. What's the movie? I just tried to watch Dune. Dune 2 came out, right? And
yep, I haven't watched them yet.
No, I've never even heard of it. My father-in-law was like, "Dude, let's go see Dune 2." My brother-in-law, I'm like, why would I see? I never even saw Dune 1. But I'm trying to watch it, and I'm like, I don't know if I can get into it. I'm trying. I'm gonna give it a shot.
Well, and it's one of those, if you read the book, which I never read, so it's Frank Herbert. I never read Dune. I did read Lord of the Rings, so that was why I love Lord of the Rings so much, and it was done very, very well.
Same. I love Lord of the Rings. Huge Lord of the Rings fan.
Yep. But I never read Dune, so I didn't even realize it was coming out. My wife and I used to go to movies all the time because we had AMC passes. We'd go 2 or 3 times a week for years until COVID. It was $20 a month, man. You could get your value in one day, but I mean, if you went twice a month, it paid for itself. Let alone if you there for a while, we saw like everything that was coming out.
Oh God, man!
I would just meet her there
more often than we do.
I wish we did, but it's really not the same. as it used to be, and it's just gotten,
No,
pricing has gotten out of hand, which we could say that about anything, our industry included.
Oh my gosh, dude, it's incredible. Oh.
So you said you got into hunting at school. What's funny,
Yes.
I grew up where I should have hunted my entire life, and I've, the closest I've come to hunting was doing a pheasant tower shoot at the old company I worked for.
Ooh,
I always fished.
Dude, those look like a lot of fun, those pheasant hunts. I have a neighbor upstate. We have some property upstate, and he's been to Africa. He's been to New Zealand. He's been up in Europe hunting, and he's got a whole basement full of his game animal, his trophies. And he's like, Richie, a nice pheasant hunt I would take over any other hunt. A nice pheasant hunt is like a dream.
Dude, it's a fun hunt, and I will be honest, I am a fan of some good roasted pheasant. It is delightful. So good. I know. Man,
once you start talking about this, look, my stomach's growling. Oh man, I'm going to a game dinner on I think Saturday night. I'm going to a game dinner. I don't know if you've ever been to a game dinner. They have game dinners
I'm sure they do. I'm guessing, what are you just trying? Just all different kinds of fare, I would assume.
Yeah, all different game. Bear, deer, pheasants, they got squirrel, rabbit, whatever. All this different stuff. And
you can snare it, shoot it, or strap it. Get it.
Yeah. And at these game dinners, they have, they do like gun raffles, they do equipment raffles, and like hunting equipment, and they'll sometimes raffle off like fishing trips and fishing poles and stuff. It's just a blast. It's a great night out. It's good networking. It's all you can eat, all you can drink, and having a good night out.
No,
hopefully
sounds like a miserable time.
Yeah. Hopefully we're getting home with a new gun too. After the raffle.
Do you know you probably don't know what's on raffle till you get there, I would guess.
Yeah, no, we don't. But there's certain ones throughout the year that are known for having much cooler guns, like way cooler. Like there's certain ones that are kind of like not exclusive, but it'll sell out real quick because he's like the guy. He's the chef. He's a great chef, and he brings the cool guns. So food and guns.
I would say probably the most successful promotion for any company I've ever worked for that I was ever a part of was we did a gun promotion one year, maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Wow.
Dude, I think it had to be 2018, 2019, somewhere in there. I've got several of those customers that got guns that still buy from me. I'll ask them if they can remember exactly when that was, because I can't.
Yeah.
I don't have access to that on email.
It screwed up all this.
But yeah, no, we had some. Those were some of the funnest ones. They're like, man, it's like, all right, I gotta go sell one more job. I gotta get that gun. Because everything was like a different threshold. Like, well, if you pass $15,000 in growth, then you get to pick from these two. If you pass 25, you get to pick from these two. And it's like on and on and up. And they're like, whoo, what do we got to do?
That's awesome, yeah.
And then they would start. Well, the problem was then they would start asking me, it's like, you guys going to do that next year? And when are you going to do it? And I had guys, we did it like 2 or 3 years in a row. And I would have guys that would almost start to sandbag so that they could make sure they grew enough to get their gun next year. I was like, you're killing me, man. This is not how this was intended. I said, you better make up for it in the quarter after this.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome. Yeah, that definitely sounds like a success. I mean, that's huge. That's awesome.
I don't even know if we'd be allowed to do that anymore.
I don't know. I was gonna say, remember they used to advertise, what was it, like a Chevy truck and a shotgun or something like that?
I remember there were some companies that did that down here too.
Yeah. You should buy a unit, buy a 20 SEER unit, and you get a Mossberg 500.
Yeah. Well, what else you been up to besides planning for the game dinner? I know you got little ones keeping you busy, I'm sure.
Yeah, the boys are keeping us busy. They got a little sick, and that's always fun. But we got through that. What else we got going on? we're just it's a little bit slow out there right now. Like I don't know if you're feeling it on your end, but I'm feeling it on my end. I'm like it's getting a little bit slow. I actually had hired my first full-time employee a few weeks ago, and we spoke earlier this year, and I said like, look, give me 6 weeks and I'll bring you on and we'll guns blaze and we'll get going. I planned for like 6 weeks. I'm like busting out work, getting things lined up, and I got like 2 weeks full of work to do. And like he is fantastic. Like this guy, he is just like I couldn't have asked for a better matchup at this point. Like we had an interview with him, and he's like, I got a whole set of questions, like everything lined out, lined out like a question by question of what I'm going to ask and stuff. And we started talking, and he's from the city, and I'm like, dude, I don't do any city work. He's like, yeah, I know, I saw that on the job listing. That's why I wanted to reach out, because right now I work in the city and it's a 2-hour commute. I said, dude, I am done with the city. I don't go out there. All Long Island, you want to come on board? Like, you got your life back. You ain't got to live in a van no more. Like, it's a half-hour commute to work, this and that. So we clicked, and he knows all city work. He's been in the city for 7 years, so that's what I was doing for 8 years too. And so immediately I could just tell the way he's talking about equipment and work, and like condenser water and water source heat pumps and all this, all the different stuff you run into in the city. And out here, just minor, it's not really like that, but we immediately clicked, and I could feel like the weight, and I'm like, dude, we work the same. Like we have the same mentality, because when you work in the city, it's like you spend 2 hours in the van, you want to bust your tail, get going, get to work, and at you want to be home at a reasonable hour. You want to hit traffic and stuff, so you want to be able to get in early, get out early.
Yep. So you really can't ever accomplish probably as much as you would want to in a day anyway, just because it's congested to get there. It's congested trying to drive around the city to actually get where you got to be. Then you've got to probably jump through so many different hoops depending on the building you're working in. Yeah. I have to imagine it's brutal.
It is. It's 2.5 hours. I used to leave. When I was an apprentice, I would drive to the mechanic's house in Brooklyn in on a park slope. I would leave my house at 4:30. I'd get down to him at 6. We'd get to the supply house at 7 to get to the job at 8 or 8:30, and then we work from there until the job's done. Let's say we're done at 4:30. We drive back to Brooklyn. We get back to Brooklyn at 6. I hop in my car, drive home to Long Island. I get home at 7:38. That was my daily routine. No joke. And everybody said I was crazy. That was my daily routine for I don't know, 4 years straight. Probably six days a week I was working.
When I first started in sales, when Chris and I moved to Charlotte, so my first 2 years in wholesale, I lived in Greenville, South Carolina, and I was primarily, counter, inside sales, assistant branch manager. I was in a branch every day. So I mean, it was 6 to 5, 6 to 6 every day anyway, but it was just in the store is what it was. But then when we first got our apartment in Charlotte, my sales territory was everything to the east of Interstate 77, if you look at a map. And we lived in Cornelius, which is up by Lake Norman, kind of the far northwest side of Charlotte.
Okay.
And we have a beltway, it's 485, that wraps around the whole city. But the section that connected two major points at the north side of Charlotte didn't exist yet.
Okay.
And 77 hadn't been widened, and it was a parking lot. It's still a parking lot now, but it was 4 lanes, needed to be 8. Probably needed to be 10. And it was just brutal. So if I had to get to, the southeast side of the city for a meeting at 8, I'd have to leave the house at 5:30 to be lucky to go, what normally would take 35 minutes.
Right.
And it was brutal. So, I would be working from 5 till 7 or 8 almost every day when I would run. Initially, just as I learned sales, I ran milk routes everywhere because I didn't know the people in the area. I didn't know the landscape, so I wanted to just drive and see as much as I could, to start with, so I could really develop and figure out how to build a territory. But the driving kills you.
Yeah, it's crazy. It is. I wanted to mention I went to Charlotte once because we were looking to move down there. I don't want to change up the subject, but I just want to mention
go for it.
we're almost going to move there to Charlotte because it was a big city. It was beautiful. I heard really great things, and I went down there one day, and I wrapped around, I think, the whole city in this beltway you're talking about. I don't remember.
You're probably on. You might have been on 270. Was it 277? Is that the small one that wraps around like the inner city?
It's like a ring almost. Like it comes, and
Yep.
I was like driving, not Waxhaw, but I think it's Wellington. Is it Wellington?
Weddington. So
Yeah,
you might have been on 485 if you drove the whole outer beltway, and then there's little 277 that's around the city center.
Okay. It's a beautiful city. I mean, compared to New York City, Charlotte is stunning. I go down there and like get a coffee in the morning, and I'm like walking on the streets. I'm like, there's pavers on the sidewalk. This is crazy. Like usually in New York City, there's bums and garbage and like just concrete. But here there's I'm down in Charlotte. There's pavers. There's people cleaning up with brooms and they're like nice. I don't know. Just a totally different world. I love it.
No, downtown Charlotte has got some really nice spots.
I mean, of course, I'm sure there's bad spots in all cities and stuff.
Well, if you go looking for trouble anywhere you go, you're gonna find it.
Yeah, that's for sure. Especially nowadays, it's like for some reason it's just there's so much bad in this freaking world right now. And what do they come up with? The maps of in San Francisco, you get the maps of the poop. Where you find, what the hell's going on here?
Well, on top of it, it's like, does someone really have the time to come up with that?
Right.
I mean, really?
Right. That's how bad people don't want to actually do work.
No, they want to. Yeah, that's a whole other rabbit hole right there.
Hey, we could go on forever.
Jeez, yeah, we could. So I know I had a rough February too. I feel you on that. It was, it never got cold down here, to be honest. It really didn't. I know yesterday was. My wife told me this. Yesterday was the longest period of time Charlotte has gone without snow in history that they know of. Which just kind of goes to show how. I mean, it's 79 degrees this afternoon. It was 33 this morning, but we're in that yo-yo season now. That's get back and forth.
Well, it's up here. It's like that up here too. It's like last week was freezing. Now it's warm, and then it was freezing, or vice versa. And it's like, I want to start maintenance season, but it's just too early to start maintenance season.
Yeah, it's in some cases it's almost. I know there's people here that probably are trying to start it right now since yesterday was first day of spring.
Yeah, technically,
so,
right.
I mean, there's people I'm sure they're really trying to start banging them out now. But it's just, it's been a weird start to it, which election years are always a weird start, but we have so many other things that are coming down the pipe between refrigerant transition and everything else. I think this is going to be unfortunately, I think every year going forward is going to be a weird year for a while. It seems like it's kind of going to be that way. This year that the uncertainty of winter manufacturers going to switch to 454 or 32. How long are we going to have true sell-through? I know sell-through is supposed to be, a year for 410 stuff, but at some point I think there's going to be, I'm sure there'll be changes to that. So who knows?
I had recently, and I don't know if you see on your end, but I recently was speaking to a manufacturer's rep, and they are dumping these condensers, these 16-series condensers, for like half price. They're trying to get rid of 410 condensers. I'm like, what the heck's going on? Is this gonna be a trend, or we're gonna see like in the next year or two is like manufacturers trying to clear out inventory because they have too much inventory to meet the deadline, where they have to get rid of it and make their money back. Otherwise, it's going to be illegal to actually sell it. That's
No,
not.
you'll probably see it some, and then there's going to be some units that they won't be able to sell here, but they can ship them overseas and sell them, or ship them down south. It's all going to depend. It's definitely going to be an interesting year. All the conversations I have with Bosch, at least on the water source side, as they've complete orders, I think after June. So like, let's say they had 100 of these, they've got to build through the end of June or middle of July. And, that was the last ones they sold. As soon as they're done with it, line's changing, and it does not change back. So it's going to be, I think every manufacturer is going to have some sort of rolling change to get us into it. But, the kicker is, we're already trying to find out, like, well, when are certain things supposed to be available? When are we going to see model numbers so we can start, when are we going to see pricing? When are we going to see all these things so we can build it into our system, so that then I can go and build a price sheet and I can get it to you guys. And then, when everybody's shakes out who came out too strong and who came out, smelling like a rose, that's the way it happens too.
It's the balance. You kind of got to hit it with this perfect balance.
That's it. And I don't, I don't envy myself as a salesperson. I don't envy you guys in the field. I certainly, to some extent, don't envy the manufacturers, even though I know they, in a lot of cases, make better margin than both you and me ever will see. But, for them, it's a huge risk of like, well, if we go out too high, then we're in trouble. If we go out too low, dang, we left it on the table. But it's the same for everybody.
Who's going to be the first to step in? And who I think, and it starts, I don't know if I can mention manufacturers.
No, go ahead.
Daikin, I think they're the first ones stepping into this big, because they already got units on shelves and stuff that they got R32, and I'm like, but no one's buying them. They're stepping in big and getting things stocked out, but it's like, everyone's still in the transition, still like in that, like, hey man, like, we don't know what the heck this stuff is. Like, we're still getting used to it.
Well,
I'm taking 410A as much as, until they tell me I cannot buy a 410A unit, I will be selling 410A. It's just, just from like as a contractor, I feel like
write it out as long as you can, so that if there are any hiccups or anything with the new equipment for the first 3 or 4 months, maybe you get in on the second generation and try to skip an issue or two.
Like we're a small guy here. Like our margins are small. The mistakes are much more like devastating and things like that. So it's like, I don't want to commit until, it's just, I'm a small guy. That's the nature of the small guy. There's big guys that step in front and take that on, because they have margins they have to hit. They may be a publicly traded company that needs to make a certain number every year, and they're the ones that are going to be doing this. They're the ones that are going to be taking these steps. So I think anybody out there that's a contractor looking at this, you better, in your area, whoever's the biggest fish, take a look and see what they're about to do and see what works for them.
Well, at least I like how you phrase that, because one of the things we see in this industry so much, and I've talked about it many times in the past, but one of the things you see so much is the small guy hates the big guy in the area. Small guy hates the big guy. And while I understand there is a level of animosity, and I get it, because it's easy for the big guy to poach your employees. It's easy, because of benefits, other different things. You're always trying to do what you can to beat the big team, but in most cases, these big companies help set the market price higher for the guys that are a little bit smaller, that can find a way to actually make better money, because these big companies in some cases are driving that number up. And it happens, like you said, they're publicly traded, or they're privately, private equity owned, or they're backed differently. So they've got to hit certain thresholds to do what they're doing.
Exactly. They got to hit those numbers, and they can't stop. They can't stop and say, hey, wait a second, whoa, let's just do this real quick. They have to make that number. And it's funny too. It's like the big guy. I never looked at bigger companies as like, oh, they could take me out. It's like, no, I want to run my ship is going to be tight. We're going to be lean, and we're going to maneuver around that because I know it's coming. I know what hits are going to come. I'm a small contractor. I'm a little fish. By nature, you want to swallow me. So I'm going to be quick. I'm going to be efficient. I'm going to be agile, and I'm going to learn every single way I can now while I'm small to maneuver around this to survive. And I think even in this economy, it's like, people are, in this economy, geez. I mean, it hits.
It's true, man.
It doesn't hit as hard for like tradesmen, right? Because we can make money and we can jump on work and we can start drumming up work and we can get a little bit further than somebody else, let's say, out in the civilian space that is not on trades that may be affected by the economy and inflation. And I think that we as contractors, like we have this where was I going with this, Rhydon? I totally lost my spot.
Well, hey, that's what I'm here for, is we can help steer this ship, my man. As we're talking about direction and moving and different things, one of the many reasons I wanted you on the show is, when R&D started, the main goal was to be a show that resonates with the guy that's in the truck, on a day-to-day basis, or he's in the attic, but it's the guy that's in the field, whether he's the business owner or the guys that work in it. I grew up the son of a small independent contractor, and I just love the kind of people that small blue collar guys are. I love it. Especially these small companies, and the big companies, there's no knocking on that. I love talking to people at all different levels, but I resonate so well because that was where I got my start. So, as R&D kind of changes over the coming months, you and I spoke about it. All of you guys listening, you'll kind of see it from how I'm doing this show with Richie. Is I want people to hear your story. We're going to have the shop talk, we're going to have it all, but I want people to hear your story, to motivate them, to teach them, to let them, know that all of us are in this together. It is truly about fostering collaboration over competition. I think if we don't start to move the industry that way, we're all going to be in a world of hurt, because we're about to lose a whole lot of our workforce. It's going to happen. They're going to retire. They're not coming back into it as fast as they were. And yes, labor has always been a problem in the trades. No secret. But it's going to get tougher for a while than it has been in a long time. It's coming. So I feel hearing it and talking about it for everybody will help just even bring more people to the show, bring more people to the trade. So
I agree, bro. I love it.
So I want to talk about how you got into this industry. So what initially, sparked your interest in the HVAC industry? What motivated you to pursue a career in this field, and kind of where did it all begin?
All right. So, first, I never expected to get into the HVAC industry. That wasn't on my plan. When I was about 19 years old or 20 years old, I was from 18, 19. First, I was in an accounting major. I was an accounting major. And I was going to school for accounting, and I flunked out. And I'm like, I started getting a lot of trouble, and I'm like, I got to get like a plan. I'm going to set a 10-year plan. I set the 10-year plan. It was by the age of 30, I wanted to be an electrician. So I wanted to be an electrician. I wanted to make $60,000 a year. I wanted to be married with a family and have a house with a white picket fence. That was my 10-year goal. American
dream. Straight American dream, brother.
Right. And I was like, it can't be that difficult. I'm gonna work every day at it. I'm just gonna keep going until I get to there. And I thought that was huge, right? I thought that was huge to ask for like $60,000 a year. I was like 19. Best job I ever had at that time was like, I don't know, a waiter or something, So I went to school originally to be for occupational studies, electrical service technician.
Gotcha.
In upstate New York, at a college called Mohawk Valley Community College. Shout out Mohawk Valley Community College. if anybody out there graduated between like 2013 or 2012, find me on Instagram. I would love to connect and catch up. It's been a wild, 10, 11 years now since I graduated. But I went to school up there for electrical service as an electrical service tech, and it was really just to get out of my town. I was getting in a lot of trouble, and I'm like, I just got to get out. I got to get out of town for a while. I'm going to go to this school upstate, do this electrical program, and then come back. My dad knew one of our relatives was in the electrical union, local 3. He's like, we could probably get you in. You gotta, do this X, Y, and Z. I'm like, well, I'll go to school for now and then I'll get in. And went up there. 2 years later, it was my last semester, and for some reason, I got like a reference from a guy that owned a centrifugal chiller service company.
Okay.
It was my last semester, and I'm talking to this guy. I'm like, yeah, I'm graduating college. I was thinking about doing the electrical, blah, blah, or maybe getting into like robotics. In the program up there at the community college, it was electrical service, so service tech. So it was a lot of PLCs, like what they would teach you to pretty much jump into like the manufacturing program, like programming, like manufacturing facilities, robotics, things like that. And we worked a lot with PLCs and ladder logic and wiring diagrams and all different stuff. We built computers and stuff, and it was a really cool program. And I recommend, if anybody out there was thinking about getting into a vocational school or something like that, check out the program, check out the labs they got. I learned a lot of really cool stuff over there that I never would have seen in a field, and I haven't seen really much of. But what that did was that led me to this reference of this guy that I spoke to the last semester with this. And what it is he's a centrifugal chiller service company in New York City, and he's a brilliant guy. He ended up being a mentor to me for the next 8 years after we had first spoke, I think in 2013. And if anybody knows New York City and centrifugal chillers, they probably know him because he is a titan. He is he's been in the industry since the 80s, and can put Train on their heels. He can put York on their heels. They ended up what they do is they retrofit these controls on these centrifugal chillers, and in building these controls, they have to write ladder logic, and they have to put in these PLCs, and they have to write out these programs. And the reason I ended up speaking to him was he was curious to see what I knew, if I can help him write a wiring diagram and a ladder logic for his PLC that he's putting into I think it was an oil sump pump for a centrifugal.
Gotcha.
And I was like, yeah, look, I'd love to talk more about it. I'm coming home for spring break, in 2 weeks. If you don't mind, I can come into the office, we can go over it. And say, come in. As a matter of fact, if you want, you can go to the job too. You can go, come in, grab a t-shirt, hop in a truck, and go work for a day if you want.
Now, I'm guessing, was this kind of leading into, this was the first time you really saw, the HVAC side of any of it in the field, or was it? Okay.
Yep. I didn't know a thing. I didn't know what refrigerant was. There was this saying, like, an air conditioner doesn't create cold, it removes heat, right?
Yeah.
Like, I would be like, what the hell does that mean? This is just cold air coming out of the vent, I knew nothing about it. And so, I had a couple friends that were in the air conditioning courses in school, and I see them in the lab and stuff, but I don't really understand any of it. I think I took a hydronics course, but I dropped it because I was going to dual major at one point. But I was like, they were talking about, the water flow, if you send it in this pipe and it won't go that way because it'll go this. I'm like, you know what? This is I'm doing PLCs right now. I can't wrap my head around this right now.
Yeah, give me the air to give me the air to air all day. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm dealing with oscilloscopes. I don't know what I'm not dealing with this right now. And so I go out spring break. I go work for them in the city. They bring me to a building with this huge I think it was a York, massive this York centrifugal in the basement of the building. I won't say the company name, but it's everybody knows who this company is. If I said the name, they'd be like, holy shit. Yeah. It's their headquarters in Manhattan, and and what they're doing is they're ripping out all the analog controls on this old York, and they're retrofitting in transducers, temperature sensors, and actuators, and removing all like the pneumatic. I think there's pneumatics controls that was all there, and they're going to put in a touchscreen panel, and it will control the chiller that way. And I go in there, and I'm like, first unit I ever touched in my life in the air conditioning industry was this giant York centrifugal. I think I ran like a wire out for the IFM transducer we were putting in, or whatever. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just putting zip ties on a tube, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. This is cool, Governors, all right, condenser water, all right, refrigerant, I don't know what that is. Turbines, okay. And so that was my first ever experience with the HVAC industry, was touching that machine. And when I left there, I was like blown away. I'm like, this is the coolest thing I've ever done. Like, dude, you want me to work the rest of the week? I'll work all spring break. Like, this is amazing. Right? And he's like, okay, great. I'm glad you love it, And I said, look, the only problem is like, I spent a long time learning what I know. And I understand that you have to have an understanding. And it's going to take me a long time to understand what's going on.
Yep,
and
takes time.
Like, I don't know what refrigerant is. I don't know what a governor is. I mean, I kind of know what this program is doing, but I don't know why it's doing it. I don't know why you're turning this on and moving that. And, why you need that temperature and not this, all this stuff. And he's like, all right, look, if you want to understand the industry a little better, they have a sister company that does, he does the centrifugals in the basement of these big buildings, and he started a sister company that does everything else.
Gotcha.
So like the lobby units, the hallway units, the cooling towers, the pumps, the VFDs, whatever else is outside that chiller, basically his sister company ended up doing. So over the last 30 years, when he was in business, he accumulated a lot of work because his engineers would be like, hey, can you take care of this other unit down the hall?
Mm-hmm.
Him and his chiller guy, they're all chiller techs. Are like, we don't know how to, And it's funny because the chiller techs don't know how to work on the water source units, and it goes vice versa. The water source guys don't know how to touch the chiller stuff. So they're totally separated the two tasks, created two different companies. And so he's like, go join the sister company for a while, see how you like it, see if you like what you're doing, if you want to get into it, or if you want to stick with electronics. And
You're fine.
Can you hear them in the background?
Yeah, you can. Boys being boys, man.
Classic. They're watching Pinocchio. He loves it. He loves when Pinocchio turns it from like a puppet to a boy, and he like makes noise in like the Geppetto shop. And Geppetto wakes up and he's like, "Who's there? What's going on?" And my son goes wild. He's dying, laughing. He's rolling on the floor because like this old man's like, "What the hell's going on out here?" He thinks it's hilarious.
I love it.
He thinks he's daddy. He's messing with daddy.
So he built a separate company so he could kind of pick up all these other aspects. So as you kind of had facilitated that, now you like, man, okay, this is something I really want to do. What was, did you end up going to work for him, or kind of what was your next step and how you started figuring out how to transition to HVAC from where you had started?
I ended up working, so I was like, all right, yeah, I'll take that, if you have a position there for me, I'll take the apprenticeship position there. And I worked for that sister company for 8 years. My whole career was there. I ended up, sticking with them. They were great. They gave great benefits, great pay, everything. And I stuck with them. Well, I left for a little while to work on Long Island because I got sick of the city, and then I got sick of the Long Island work, so I went back to the city. And it was like a little back and forth, but I had my I had this taste of the industrial commercial stuff, and I really loved it. I loved the uniqueness, the type of equipment you see. It's basically like what we would say is like we did everything from the basement to the roof and everything in between.
Yep.
Even the VFDs, programming VFDs and pumps and the condenser water side of it, all that stuff. Cooling towers in the winter times, we'd rebuild cooling towers, which was a great experience. It was definitely sitting on a 35-story building in the middle of January with 30-mile-an-hour winds on the highest point of the,
And then you're ripping fill out, trying to...
Yeah. Oh, you know all about it then. Yeah, dude, ripping fill, we used to roll it. I don't know if that's like a standard of rolling it and strapping it. We used to take that sheet fill. We'd sit with our knees and we'd roll it like it's like a sleeping bag. Roll it with your knees, hold it with like a few sheets, and then at the end you'd take a rope, some twine and tie it up. And then we'd stack those rolls, and then let's say like on a Sunday morning when everyone's gone from the building, we'd be like 6 or 8 guys just pulling all those rolls down through the
going down I was gonna say going down the freight elevator.
Yeah, we'd have like dumpsters coming, one dumpster, all right, next dumpster's coming in a half hour, all right, keep going. It's just, wow.
That was one thing, I never was around. My dad dealt with big stuff like that when he was in industry before he started his company in the mountains, but the company he started was primarily residential, light commercial, because that's just what was there. So some of that big stuff I never got to experience. And one of the reasons why I moved to Insight Partners where I work now is because, we do literally everything in one way or another. So the job I took as a territory sales manager was for the aftermarket parts division, but I'm helping grow residential and light commercial business through that side, as well as selling aftermarket parts, which you talk about chillers. We just became the JCI chiller parts rep for a lot of the East Coast between a couple of our companies that are sister companies as well. So it's something I've got to learn, but one of the reasons I wanted to go to work here was because we did applied equipment. We do recon, we do full chiller retrofits and cooling tower rebuilds. We have a whole division that does that. We have a whole controls division. So you going into logic and talking all these other things, this is all stuff I'm starting to even know truly existed in the industry.
It's wild, right?
I knew the industry was big, but the more I experience, I'm continuing. I swear every day I realize it's even bigger than I could have thought it was. It's nuts.
Yeah, it's wild.
So as you spent 8 years there, what was, was there ever, a challenge or anything you ran into kind of in the big beginning where you were just like, oh, do I really still want to do this? And, and you're like, but you kick through it and you overcome those hurdles. Kind of what was some of your hurdles to jump through, as you got into that company?
Yeah. So, probably I'd say about a year and a half into my apprenticeship, I was looking to make more money. Right. And I knew they couldn't pay me more. And so I took a second job as like a roadie doing on the weekends, setting up like stages and DJ equipment and the flat screen TVs you see at like a wedding or like a bar mitzvah or a sweet 16 or something like that, like these big parties, and then we do things like events at Chase Chase Stadium, was it City Field now, and we do things at City Field, and it was really fun. Like it was a great time. Like, and the guys were great that I worked with, and like we all busted it up. But the faster we got that stage set, the sooner we'll be out of there. And you get paid from when you set it up to when you go break it down. So the faster we set it up, we get to break, and then we get paid all those hours in between.
Yep.
And then we return. So it was like we started like 8 p.m. on a Saturday, and then we go until like 4 a.m. on a Sunday. And I started doing that. I got really into it. I was like, I love this. Like, this is awesome, And then I was taking as many hours as I could fit in a weekend. And my apprenticeship I started to like live for that weekend job. I used to like just mosey on through my apprenticeship, and everybody knows that, like, that stage where like you kind of just not into it, you're not paying attention.
Yep.
You've seen anybody who has had an apprentice or like taken on apprentices, you see it in their eyes. It's like they're just not there. They're not really into it too much, and that's where I was going. It was just like, not into it, not interested in learning further. And my boss actually, I think my boss kind of came to me. He's like, we see this is happening, and we want to know, like, are you in, or do you think like this isn't for you? And I'm like, no, I'm in. But really, it wasn't him who pushed me to stay. What ended up happening next was something outside the HVAC industry that I never ever expected to happen. I ended up meeting my wife, and it was like this. Yeah, I was like, this time in my life where I'm just grinding. I'm like, I'll never find somebody I'm going to settle down with. I'm not looking to settle down, all this stuff. And here comes my wife, right? We start dating.
I know that feeling.
Dude, it's wild. It's like, it'll just play you right out of whatever funk you're in. You're just like, and especially, she was so motivating. She's so supportive. And like, I've had girlfriends in the past while I was working, or girls I was dating, whatever. Never really was serious with anybody. Girls would be like, "Oh, you look like a janitor at work," or like, and I'm like, all right. Like some girls like, "Well, I'm going out tonight. It's Friday night." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm getting stuck at work. Like, I'm still in the city. It's 8:00. Like, we got to get this done." She's like, "Well, I'm still going out. Have fun with that." Like, why?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I know what you mean.
Just one after another, and here comes my wife, and she's like, "That's incredible." She's like, "You have this. You go in the city. You do this much work. This is what you do. This is what you choose to do." I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Wow, that's really like mature and like impressive." And I'm like, "Yeah." "Yeah, it is."
You're like, "Yeah, I am mature. That's what I'm talking about."
Right. I'm like, get all hyped up, but in my mind, I'm like, okay, like, I need to keep this up, because like, she's a really good, like, a good person, and like, I don't want to mess it up. So I just got into it. Got me back into it, for like a few weeks, and then a few weeks turned to a few months, and really like getting further and further into it. And then, next thing we're getting more serious, and then it just kind of, that's what kept me going, dude. It's like, just pretty much my wife really is like, pulled me back in and like motivated me. Otherwise I would have been like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not, there's other motivating factors too within it, obviously, like the success and finally learning how to like do what you're doing, like finally learning how to like braise really well. Like you can start to braise, and
you start to figure it all out, and it just clicks.
Right, and it all starts, and it was pretty much like this moment where like all this stuff was accumulating. Like I was clicking at work, I was going home, and I was like really, I was with somebody I really loved and supported me and stuff. So it was like this big push to continue, and that was kind of like my hurdle with the HVAC industry, was like that moment of like not getting it to the point of getting it, is like I almost gave up, but then like I got a beacon, I got like my wife like giving me that beacon of hope, and then that gave me the time to continue to push and then get it.
Well, and I'll say a quick point on that too. I think there's a lot of times where we forget how important it is that our spouse is supportive of what we do.
Can't say anything.
Buddy, there are times when I do, haven't appreciated what, my wife's done to support my career and what she's dealt with. She pushed off going back to school for years. She finally got I finally got my career off the ground enough that we could send her back to school. She finally just graduated in December, but she never should have had to wait that long. But, she did it as we tried to get through different things. So it's, and this is to younger guys that are listening, it's important that the person you're with supports what you do, because if they don't, it's going to make your career and things a struggle. That's our TED Talk about important.
No, it's okay.
Partnership,
It gets tough out there.
But it's true. It's the real side of it.
Right.
And you were in a spot where you didn't feel supported by people you were with, and that caused you to struggle even with your own decisions. And then you meet this person that's like, you're doing a good job. This is amazing. And it kind of clears some of that stuff up. So it's so important, your friend circle and your significant other, all those things matter as you continue to motivate and grow through your career. So I would say, now how long, so this was what, several years in, so that you were there another couple of years, and then when did you start deciding it was time to, I need to start my own business? What made you, transition from employee to business owner, and what pushed that decision?
It was a lot of different things. Again, it was like, one thing was I recognized like the future of the industry and where you go. You want to find a place that you're happy with, and you find that like you can truly grow into and enjoy as your career, for your lifetime career, right? Like knowing that like, all right, I got to find my spot here. Like now I'm into it, now I get it, and I got to find out like what's gonna keep me here, what's gonna keep me, like, what am I gonna be able to raise children off of doing? Am I gonna be able to have a family here? And I quickly understood, like, working in a city and spending 2 hours commuting in and 2 hours commuting out, and that's just like, that's an easy commute. Usually it's like 5 hours, really, you're in the truck. And really quick, I realized like I'm not gonna be able to have like a decent life with my family and enjoy my time as like an adult if I'm just spending my time in a van. So I'm like, that was one thing.
I was gonna say, question about, like, quick pin question about the drive time. Where you are you able to bill for drive time, or is that just something you've got to drive 2 hours before you can start billing your day, and then you got to drive 2 hours back? How do they, how was that regulated?
Only on call, it was door to door.
Gotcha.
Or portal to portal, you call it, right? That was only on call. On the weekends you get that, but from your Monday through Friday, 40-hour work week, it was 8 to 4:30. Or whatever time you start, 8 hours, then you're out. And if you go longer, obviously you get overtime and stuff like that. But the way I think they structured it was a high cost for a service call. In the city, you get like a really high cost on a service call. Whatever you're getting out here, let's say you get like $150 or $200 for a service call. Out there, you're getting $375 or $400, sometimes $500, something like that.
It's probably,
I don't know.
It's probably even higher than that, depending on what all they roll into
nowadays,
dealing with it.
Right. This is 2024. I'm talking like back, I don't know, the mid 2010s when I was working out there and stuff. That was probably around the number. But I think that was the best part of it was hitting over 40, and that's what kept me going in the city for a long time. So get overtime, you get prevailing wage. You did a lot of work in hospitals. Sundays was double time, so it was like, give me any, and so what happened was I'm coming to this realization that this is really going to take up my life, and if I don't do something about it, I'll get stuck doing it. And so I just focused. I took as much overtime as I could. I just worked fingers to the bone all day long. As many, they have a Saturday, I'm there. They have a Sunday, I'm there. They have a Saturday, Sunday, I'm there. They have an overnight shift, I'm there. Yep. They want to do an overnight shift and to have me work another 4 hours during the day at some point, I'm there. Give it to me. I don't care.
Stack it.
Stack it. I just kept going. And my wife and I, we had this conversation early. It was like, I have to do something that's going to be really difficult in order for me to be home later on in our lives. Because if I don't do this now, I'm going to be stuck doing this forever. If I don't because we're young, I'm like in my mid-20s, I'm like, if I don't sacrifice this time now And I think every young guy should see things.
I know exactly what you mean, because that was, a lot of what we had those discussions. I said, the only way I can build a territory is I got to go be in it.
Go get it. You got to get it. Yeah. There's no way around it. There's just like, you got to bust through it. And so that, we had that conversation early in our relationship, and I told her what my vision was. I stuck to my 10-year plan. I told her my 10-year plan, like all this stuff. So ever since I was like 19, 20, I had that 10-year plan. I really stuck to it. And I knew, like, all right, well, if I want to have a house and a family at 30, I can't be learning how to be a technician at 29 in the city. I'll be gone all day. There's no family. I have to do this now. So that's what it was. It's just sacrifice. It was just sacrifice everything. Don't go out. I never went out on the weekends. I hardly saw my friends. I just buckled down. Shit, dude, I was making a ton of money too. It was great. It was like, and that was what led to my ability to buy a home. Me and my wife bought a home at like 25, I think, out here on the line. I think she was 25, 20. I was 26. We bought our first home, and I paid for a wedding. It's like we did all this stuff, but it was all because of the sacrifice I was making. I just can't. Quick hug, Ryan. I'm just gonna come here, big guy. Come here, big guy. Have a good day, hug. It's okay. Good. Look at you, macaroni face. Enjoying that macaroni and cheese. Love you. He said, just wanted a hug. He just wanted to hug his dad.
I still have instances every day where I want to hug my dad.
Oh, yeah, that's so sweet, man.
I do love my dad. Cajun Joe's a legend. I wouldn't be who I am without him.
That's awesome, brother. He sounds like a wonderful man. He does. And the stories and everything, it's a blessing.
So you stacked some paper, got the house, got the woman. Yeah. How do you get this business started?
So I'm stacking skills. So I'm like, anything I can do to get skills. So I get married, 2018. My boss comes to me and goes, look, Richie, kind of something along the lines of this is like, I would love for somebody to come into the office, learn what I do, so I don't have to do this every day. And we can kind of grow the company, and I can start working on the business rather than in the business.
E-myth all day.
And he goes, would you be interested in taking an office position? I'll put your desk inside my office with me. You'll shadow what I do, and you'll learn how I speak, do things and quote, estimate, and pretty much just shadow him. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I'd love to do something like that, And there's a big stigmatism against office work, right? You don't take an office job. You don't go, they're the enemy. They screw you over. They call you at 4:55 and give you another call. And it's like, so to me, it was like going from the field to the office was like, whoa, big transition. But in my mind, in the back of my vision was like, oh, this is something I want to know. Like, this is definitely
stuff you gotta know. Stuff you gotta know.
So I was fortunate enough to have that experience and learn it, and I ended up going almost 3 years in that office doing the work and doing the work with them and estimating and learning how to talk to customers and learning the politics behind these big contracts and these big companies that are hiring us. It gets super political. It gets super like how you speak to each other and like how you're responding and service. And it's almost like you lose, and that's why there's such a split, I think, between office staff and techs. It's like the office staff is like dealing with the politics behind people, right? Like they're dealing with their relationship, they're dealing with the personalities. Some people, they are just rough emailers. They're rough people. They're rough on the phone. They don't want to talk. They don't want to answer the phone. All these things. They only want to talk to you when they need something from you. They don't want to tell you again what unit number it was or something like that.
Yep.
So
soft skills is a hard thing for some people to deal with. I think there's a lot of times. I think I almost in some cases think every service tech should have to spend a week at the beginning of their career answering the phones.
That's a great idea.
I said to spend a week dealing with the phones, dealing with people, And then, at the end of the week, you sit the guy back down and be like, all right, man, what did you hear? What did you experience? What did you hate? What did you not? And what did you think about it? Because that was something even my dad would stick me in front of people. I rode in a work truck from 5. Like, I never got an allowance. I either worked or I got nothing. So I went to work. And it's the truth. But we would go into people's homes, and he would talk, and he would say, he'd like, just listen. So I listen. And then, we'd get out to the truck. I'd be 7, 8 years old. He'd be like, what did you think of that person? What did you think about the conversation? Like, from a young age, he tried to get me to understand the nuances of talking to people. But most kids these days, if you get an apprentice now that's 20 or 18, they've lived their whole life with a screen in front of it.
Yes.
So
yeah.
how do you drag that soft skill out of them? I hate to say it, I feel like every guy should get stuck answering the phone for a week. And you might have to pull him out, and you might have to pull his ass out of the chair 2 hours into it. But, I think it would go a long way too, because also if the guy in the field respects the woman or the guy in the office that's taking the calls and scheduling them, and they understand each other, and you build that culture, then they can understand each other and have a common ground, and it just makes it work better.
Things click, and like then they start talking. You can have that relationship where, like, if the office staff knows how the customer is while you're leaving, like if you have a good relationship with the office staff and you're calling them and shooting the shit with them or whatever, shop talk a little bit, and you can tell them how when I left, that person kind of had like a little bit of an attitude, so I don't know if they're gonna call, and they may call and say something. They've probably done it. If they've done it before, they're probably gonna do it again. So just be on the up and up for it. I want to prepare you. They may call or something like that. Like, not exact. I'm just an example, but there's that kind of relationship where, like, you can have that camaraderie. You can have that kind of clicking and moving things forward in a healthy way with the customer relationship and the business relationship.
So we looking at kind of questions as we're thinking about them. So that kind of covers the experiences you had as an employee beginning to shadow this guy helped kind of influence, I would assume, the leadership and some of your employment management for the good or the better or the different or the worse. So
yeah, sure.
Did the COVID period, is that what kind of really just ended up being the straw that broke the camel's back and saw you kind of go on your own because of one reason or another, or how did that work?
Yeah, great. No, it's a good question. So during COVID, and everyone's going to hate me for saying this, I'm sure, but during COVID, they shut down the office and we worked from home. And I was working from home, and then on the weekends, I was still, even though I was in the office, on the weekends, I would go out and do work. When they had overtime, I was still taking it. I was still working a Saturday and a Sunday shift and going out there and putting in overtime in the field. So I saw the guys, on the weekends and stuff, and we still kept up a relationship and doing that. But I think what happened was me working from home, almost my boss and maybe upper management resented that I had worked from home, and I, without getting too much into it,
I understand.
Ultimately, and look, they were great mentors to me. It didn't end amicably. Well, I thought it ended amicably, but it ended up, they had some resentment. And,
I know that feeling.
So right, so it happens, dude. So right now, at the time, I was like, all right, like they're kind of resenting me. I felt like they wanted to put me back in the field, and I'm like, I really, like, I don't want to do the field full time. Like I spent so much effort and I took so much shit learning how to do this office stuff, like all the butting heads, all like the fuck ups, all the mistakes I made, all the shit I took in the office, hearing it from guys, hearing it from the office staff. I was in the position that pretty much, I wasn't my boss, I wasn't the boss of the company, but like I was in a position where people would come to me with problems, and it was a lot of delegating those problems. And then the office staff would get mad that the guys started calling me, bypassing the office, calling me, trying to get me to help them because nobody would let them talk to me directly through the office. And it was just like this big thing. It was just like a big shitstorm. And I'm like, dude, I just took all this. I don't want to go back and feel like I just learned how to do all this stuff. And then my son was born. And I took 2 weeks off. I come back and I'm like, you know what? I don't care what you guys do. I want to start my own business. I'm done. My son, my family, this is what I work for. Now's the time. I'm out. I'm going to start my own business. I literally it was like 6 weeks after my son was born. And I'm like, this is what I work for. I'm about to turn 30 in 2 months. And my 10-year plan is here. Like, this is now I'm going to step into my next plan, my next like 10 years, what I plan to do. And I'm like, I'm starting a business. I'm done. I'm not working here. I can't work a 9 to 5. I'm going to, take my chances at entrepreneurship and shoot for it.
So what kind of, as you made the shift, what were some kind of like resources, or were there any support systems that, are available to, a guy that's ready to start his own contracting business? Or had you already had conversations with any kind of financial advisor or accountant or planner for how to set up your business and that kind of stuff?
No, none of it. I had none of it. I had, I would say I started doing side work, maybe like 5 or 6 years into my career. I started doing side work and I started picking up a ton of it. I was like one reference. I helped my neighbor and he told his coworker, and his coworker told the neighbor, and the neighbor told his family. And next thing I know, it's like after the first summer I did side work, the next summer was just like it blew up.
Yep.
And I'm like, holy shit! Like now, and this feeds into like the plan I had. It's like I told me and my wife, I'm like, honey, I just gotta sacrifice everything. So I'm doing any day. If I'm working a Saturday in the city, on Sunday I'm swapping out a unit or whatever, or putting in a ductless unit. And I was doing a lot of side work, and probably a lot of guys don't do side work, and I don't know what they think of it, but for me, I need more money in my life. I need to go somewhere, and I need to provide. So there was, just this drive that I had to get to it. And then I ended up making too much money, and I had to put it somewhere. So I incorporated my side business.
There you go.
And I was doing that still on the side, but I was putting all the money through the corporation. I was paying taxes on it and everything. And so I kind of had this set up already, and I started to I was doing my taxes on my own for a little while, and then I got an accountant involved. And then eventually when I broke out onto my own and really did it full time, there's 2 things I did right away. I hired an accounting team that cost a lot of money, and I hired a really good lawyer. Yeah, and I hired a really good lawyer because I was like, I just need these 2 things to secure. I have a family now. I need this in my back pocket. And she was like, all right, Rich. So what you did with your other business and the way you filed your taxes by yourself is not right. You've been filing your sole proprietor. You were filing your corporation as a sole proprietorship for 2 years, or 3 years, whatever. She's like, if I go to file your corporate receipts right now, you will most likely get audited. Unless you want to go through that and relive all that, shut it down and start a new business. And I was like,
yep.
All right.
That's what I pay you the big bucks for.
Yeah, that's why you're here. And she got me out of that trouble. We paid taxes and stuff. We did a few things. She got me through it, and I've had her on ever since. She's been great, and I will gladly pay that bill at the end of the year because she's got me, in my best interests on her table in front of her computer.
So when she said shut that one down and you've got to start technically quote unquote new business. Actually, give me 1 second. My wife's about to open the door and the dog's going to freak out. Hold on 1 second. Let me go let them downstairs. Oh, it's weird only letting 2 of them downstairs instead of 3.
Oh, man. So sorry, bro.
Nah, it's all right. So as you open new company, did you kind of use any of that as a reset? Did you change any of your, initial business plan? Did you
Yeah.
do anything different with financing for the company? Or, how did I made a mistake here. How'd you fix that now?
That's right. It's all self-funded. I never took out a loan. I never opened a credit. For so long, I never had credit cards, nothing like that. And it was just doing work, getting paid, and just keep going, just keep surviving, just keep doing what I'm doing. And so I got out of that problem. I got the LLC going. We started doing running great, and I hired a part-time guy last year. And then I brought on an apprentice in the summer, so I had 2 guys with me. I was the mechanic. They were learning, they were burning, doing, picking up equipment, whatever. And we had a really good year last year, and it was to a point where I was like, okay, I cannot increase my revenue doing that again, because that was insane. Like what we just did, me being the only mechanic doing that work, is not going to be sustainable. Like I may meet what I did last year, but I can't replicate that every year. I just can't do it. Something's got to change. It just isn't sustainable. Like what I've been doing to get to this point, what I pushed so hard to get to a certain point in my life that I kind of got there and was just like, holy shit, no. Okay, all right. We just blew through that, and now we're here. What next? So. And it's funny, that's how I was off Instagram for a while. And that's one of the reasons I came back to Instagram, because I was kind of like, what do I do? I need answers. And I don't have any mentors. When you're in business for yourself, there's nobody telling you how to do it. There's nobody, if you have somebody who's telling you to do it, and somebody's in your corner you can talk to that knows how to, that's been through it, you'll consider yourself lucky, because it's a lonely spot.
It's a lonely spot, and there are a million snake oil salesmen that'll tell you they can fix your business for this price. But
I never really, I don't know.
Some of that stuff is some of that stuff is good, but grain of salt.
And it goes back to in the beginning of when we first started having the conversation. I talked about being efficient and quick and agile, and my agility, right, to be a small contractor, to survive in this market, to survive in this space as an entrepreneur. I'm not quite sure I'm set on any type of coaching or anything like that right now. Like I love reading books, and I love hearing them. I love following them on Instagram and stuff like that. But as far as coaching goes, I don't know if I'm ready for that. I probably get crushed on Instagram for saying it, which I don't really care. It's the truth, and I think people should consider it. It's like, I need to be efficient. I need to watch what I'm doing with my money. And I know people are probably like, dude, you made X amount of money last year, and you're still not doing this, and you're doing it all yourself. Yes, and I'll get there. I'll get to the coaching someday. But right now, I'm still processing things, and like I was saying earlier too, is I just took on my first full-time guy, and I'm implementing things that I've learned, through what I've been reading and watching, and trying to set up an operations team, trying to set up so I don't have to get in an attic. I don't have to, I need to go out and I need to do estimating. I need to pull in work. There's no way I can sustain a full-time employee and a couple of apprentices without crushing estimates and pushing and marketing. So that's my transition right now. That's where I'm at today, is like focusing on setting up my labor team, getting them all juiced up and ready to go and set in place before the summer, before maintenance season. That's why I took on a full-time guy in the middle of the winter. It's because I want him to know what the processes are. I want him to be settled, happy, confident. Going into June, going into July, we're good to go. We're in a well-oiled machine. We're going to crush it. So, that was kind of the development. It's like, we're just growing, and now I hit a point of growth where it's going to be. This is a tough spot now, because now anybody who's been here or anybody who's trying to do it out there, I know there's a few guys on Instagram that I'm friends with and we talk and stuff. They're trying to push this too if they're experiencing it. It is not.
It's a weird spot, because you have to get out of the field, but you also, it's hard to let go of the level of work you put in the field to allow it to be delegated to someone else. And hiring someone earlier in the year that gives you a bit more time to try to stress your best practices onto them.
Yes. And it's going to be a cost.
It's a cost. That's it.
For the next 5 months. It's going to be a cost to do that, but it's worth it. And I've seen
the payoff is worth it.
Right. I've seen it work in other decisions I've made where no, let me, and it's almost like I call it spreading my bread amongst the water, right? I'm sure people have heard that expression before, but I do it with customers too. These big contracts. I'm out here. We're trying to be a commercial, industrial service provider, taking on facilities. The things that I learned in the city, those huge, piece of equipment that the air-cooled chillers, not necessarily the centrifugals. I never ended up learning centrifugals, by the way. I ended up working for that other the sister company, and that's all we did is we never touched a centrifugal. But out here, I'm learning, how to deal with these customers, and it takes a long time to build a relationship. You got to put, and people would probably call me crazy, but there's certain times where it's like, let me just stop by. I'll talk to you about it. Let me stop by. Let me look at the piece of equipment. Don't worry about it. I'm in the neighborhood. Let me stop in. That goes 1,000 miles with these guys, especially the people that are like, Rich, I got so many problems on my plate. I got to get some of them off. What can you do? I'm like, let me come over. Let me just look at it. Don't worry. I'll come by.
Yep.
All right. And then you look at it, and it's like a $17,000 repair they have to get done next week. What am I going to charge them for a service call? It's $17,000 repair. It's the money's in the repair. There's no, and so, spreading my bread amongst the water, dude. That's what I'm really big on that. It helped me when I first started my business, when I first quit my job. I had some money in the bank. I mean, look, dude, it was, I spent $50,000 to stay alive in the first year. Yep. That's a big chunk of money, and it was like a lot of savings. I'm like, now it's starting to get low. Now we got to be careful. Now we got to start working more. We got to start growing and stuff. Not sustainable, but in that first year, I just was spreading my bread amongst the water. Dude. I was just letting it go and letting planting seeds everywhere. Everywhere I was going, I was planting seeds. And after the second and third year, and the third year is really when it picked up, and I tripled my revenue, dude. It was wild. It was just these companies are calling back. Hey, Rich, you quoted us to replace these 3 units. Hey, Rich, you quoted to rebuild this unit. Rich, we got to get these repaired. All this stuff starts coming in, and it's like, oh my gosh, I quoted that a year and a half ago. I quoted that a year ago. It's been 6 months since I heard from you, and things like that.
That works sometimes too. Well, and especially if you're doing more industrial stuff, sometimes it's, we don't have the budget, but we can make it for a few more months. But then, it's emergency time 3 months later.
Right. And that's another thing is the way I structure things with these facilities. It's like we go, we do maintenance, and I give them a full report of what's going on with their equipment. I show them how old it is, what kind of shape it's in. We got pictures, we got all this stuff, and I give it to them in an email format so that they know now where we're starting. Right? We're starting this maintenance. This guy just came in. Look at what he just gave us. Okay. Now when I go back and say, look guys, this compressor just failed, we should replace the machine, not the compressor, because it's 17 years old, and there's one in stock down the road. I can go get it and put it in.
Yep.
And it's more of kind of giving that foundation of and setting them up. Hey, this machine's, you have 5 other machines that are also 17 years old. What's your budget this year? What's your budget next year? Let's start talking.
You need to start thinking about it, because it's something you have to have for your business to operate, period.
Right. And we're talking manufacturing and pharmaceuticals and things like this, where it's like, this equipment needs to run. Otherwise, you cannot produce anything. Your business shuts down. So you want it to shut down in an emergency setting, or we shut it down on a Sunday, go in and take care of it. And by Monday, you never lost a dollar. You didn't lose a dollar. You're just making money again.
So I love the direction. I'm curious to see kind of how it plays out through the rest of the year. So I know I'll definitely will continue to check back with a lot of that stuff.
Thanks, yeah. Me too. It's gonna be a good career.
One of the other things you and I discussed was, you kind of wanted to take just a short little moment and we talk about motivation for the industry, the trade crew, all of us, as a collective group of HVAC people in the world for 2024. So, and you said at one point, you had to get back on Instagram just to kind of get some other types of inspiration. So what are some aspects of the HVAC industry that continue to inspire you and motivate you as a business owner?
Oh my gosh. The guys that show up every day on Instagram that are posting things, that are on their stories, talking, giving a rundown of what their day is and what they did today and things like that. It's like, dude, it can get so lonely out there. You get so caught up in it, and then like you hop on and somebody's doing it too. You got 3, 4, your whole story feed is with 5 other guys doing the same thing. It's like that right there is some of the most powerful motivations, I guess you could say. Is like seeing other people that are in it with you, doing it too. I mean, look, there's a lot of people in all different aspects of the industry, and I'm sure everyone can find where they're at. They will find, not they can. They will find, if they stay on Instagram long enough, they dig for that community, they're gonna find the people that are doing it too. You will find somebody who's doing it too. If you're out there, you're alone, you're like, oh shit, man, like I don't know if I want to do this for the rest of my life. Like I don't know if I want to, continue, working. I'm sick of my boss. I'm sick of this person. Dude, hop on and go search for people. Just go find somebody to talk to somebody. Don't just throw your hands up in the air. There's plenty of
no, it's the truth. It's the truth, and I think another trap that a lot of people fall into. I've seen, coworkers and friends and people in business fall into that. Instead of what's the right way to say? Don't get bitter, get better. Dang it, well they're doing this. It's like, well, man, go learn and learn how to do that too. Ask them if they're willing to give you some advice about it. And some of them won't. Fuck them. But they're haters gonna hate, and people suck. So it is what it is. But even if you're getting hated on, they're still paying attention to you.
That's it. Don't even worry about the hate. Don't even worry about that. It's like, it's just, and anybody who's hating, it's like they don't want to actually have a conversation. They just want to. There's something going on in their life where they're spewing this garbage for no reason. There's no substance behind it. They're not willing to have a conversation. Even if they are, they're still like, oh, this is stupid. No. The guys who care are going to message you. The guys who care are going to be like, yo, dude, saw you did this. Reaching out as a friend. Got to talk to you about this. Whatever it is. I don't know. Whatever it may be. But there's so much I learned from Instagram. Like me
no
personally.
Joke, man. No joke.
I was not a residential guy. That's not my background. I never got it. The only residential I started doing was because of my side work. There's a guy we did some side work together. He showed me the ropes a little bit. I started picking it up. It's very similar to the stuff in the city where you go, it's all the same, but we never did duct work and I have to fill my days that are absent from my commercial work, industrial work, with something, and I'm choosing to do residential, right? I got my licensing for the residential side of things, so that we're all set up for it. So I'm filling my days right now that are empty with residential work.
It can be a good gig, man. Residential retrofit is good money.
I'm not knocking it, dude. I'm not knocking it at all. It's quick. It's quick money. I'm just gonna say it's quick money compared to net 30 or net 60.
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
Anybody who's living, upon receipt, here's a 15,000, whatever, 50% down, 50% on completion. You're walking out of that house with the completed, dude, and you hit that money in the bank, boom, payroll done, oh, taxes done, oh, done. But living net 30, man, it's a different ballgame. So very quickly I realized I ain't surviving very long like this. I'm spreading myself thin. I need to switch it up, and and I got on this. I started learning what these guys are doing, seeing what they're doing, and just trying to get into it myself, learning as much as I can. I never knew that.
Are there some certain residential guys that you kind of just, that was who really, got the hooks in you, and you're like, man, maybe I should go try this?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Can I give some shout outs?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what this motivation is for.
HVAC Strong, Ben Thompson. He is, dude, what a bright light. I mean, honestly, dude, I'm like, some days I'm like getting crushed, right? And I'm like, pick up my phone, and like, it's already the end of the day. He's like, good morning. And I was like, yes, let's go. I don't feel like shit anymore, dude.
Dude, I will tell you, I got to meet him, I got to meet him last year in Atlanta. But he and I have talked a lot, and I am very grateful for some deep conversations he and I have had.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. Yeah, the grit. He seems like a really good.
No, he's super good, dude, and he's genuine and he's true, and that's one of the things that's so important about the community of people that we want to keep close to us.
Absolutely. Another shout out, huge KB HVAC. Another
good dude.
Shining light for my daily routine. Dude, I remember following him back when I have a personal page that I started back, when I first started in the trade. I would just post random stuff, and I actually deleted all the work I used to post for the company I used to work for on my personal page. I made that one private just for my friends and family, and then I started my HVAC page. And I remember KB, I followed KB back in 2018, 2017, and he's still crushing it. He's still bringing out the motivation, and I'm like, what a good human being. Are you kidding me? This is incredible. I was just messaging him about Pokemon cards. Like, I haven't looked at my Pokemon cards in 10 years. They've been in my basement.
Did you know that I'm in there?
No way.
Rhydon.
Hey, look, dude. By the way, Trade Crew. Oh my God, man. When I started listening to your podcast, man, I was like, I dug back to the beginning. I was like, let me just start from the beginning of all this, and I started listening to all your podcasts from the beginning. It was, dude. I really love what you do. I really do.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. And I'll give a few more shout outs too. HVAC Doctor, HVAC Foodie.
Oh my gosh. Great shout.
Oh man.
I
can get choked up talking about those two.
There's a lot, dude. There's any guys that I communicate with on a daily. First, Retro Swapping, shout out Retro Swapping. He's a great guy. On their daily, spitting facts daily about what he's doing. It's just these guys, SG,
Yep.
HVAC SG. What a character, man. What a blazing character. He's just got this fight never stops. It never stops. Every day he's pushing, and he's running a business, man. He's like, he's out there 5 in the morning, crushing it. He sticks with his diet. Dude, I don't stick with my diet. I'm not gonna lie, guys. I
don't at all.
I'm no good, dude. I'll grab a $5 biggie bag from Wendy's, and I might tomorrow. I'm not gonna lie.
You're like, because that sounds delicious.
But these, and I, yeah, right, and it is good. Dude,
yeah,
it's a good cheap one. Yeah. But so there's so much. There's health. There's wellness. There's Jeff J. Dem, obviously. I mean, how can you not? HVAC Combat, huge. HVAC Tactical, huge. All those guys, Flintstone, all those big guys. This. HVAC Reefer Guy. When I first was on Instagram, HVAC Reefer Guy was my muse, man. I was obsessed with watching this stuff all the time. I always would watch stuff. And, always on Sundays he'd do these giveaways, and I was winning a lot. I remember winning a few times in a row. I just get a package from him all the time. Because he used to guess the number, guess 1 to 100, and I'm on there 27, 28, 31, 32.
I remember. When the show first started, and I was starting to reach out trying to get guests, and I was so nervous asking people. I remember asking Reefer Guy, if he would be on the show, and he's like, well, this was after he had stopped his show, and I think I don't think he had started his Western podcast yet. He's like, well, I'm not really doing the podcast thing anymore, but if you ever want some advice or want to talk about it, and he said, whatever you want, I'll help you with. And I was like, damn. I was like, I appreciate that, but I really wanted you on the show. And then I remember it was maybe a month or two later, and he was on someone else's show, and I was like, son of a bitch, he must have asked before me. and I always laugh back and think about that. And then I remember meeting him in Atlanta, and he and I were both walking around on the floor like lost as shit, trying to figure out where we were both going. He's like, well, I gotta be at this booth. And I'm like, I gotta go be at this booth, but nice to meet you, man. Have a good day.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Well, man, thank you so much for this. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, dude. No, thanks for having me. Are you serious? This has been fantastic. What are we at? What are we at? An hour and 36 minutes already?
Yeah, we're crushing it, man. I got to go cook dinner.
Where's the part? I could do, if you want, I could do a part two.
Hey, we can definitely do a part 2 another day. Absolutely.
Let's get into it.
We'll start it earlier. That way we can drink through the whole show.
Yeah, that's it. I got a little mini fridge over here in the office. And,
That's it. I usually keep a cooler next to me.
That's not bad.
So, well, man,
I want HVAC God's cooler. I'll shout out HVAC God, bro.
Keith sends me stuff every single day still. I love that guy to death. That's why I was saying don't tell him you didn't put John Wayne in that birthday party. He'll be mad at you. Yeah. I remember he and I used to trade. We would trade John Wayne quotes forever. So that was, oh man, his show. So he had a part 1 and part 2. His show was awesome with us. But
yeah, I think I listened to that like twice. Honestly, it was like
there's so much in it. There's some shows you just gotta keep listening to because you just get something better out of it each time. It's like watching stand-up specials. Sometimes you gotta watch them 3 or 4 times to really get all the funny spots because you don't get it one day, and then the next day you're like, how did I miss this last time?
Yeah. It's good.
But
I appreciate everything you do, Rhydon. It's like just you put out gold, man. You really do, and I'm looking forward to your 2024 and what you got going on. You got
comeback year, baby.
Let's go.
Let's go. Let's effing
go, dude.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for listening to Richie and I. Please make sure to go follow him on Instagram at Richie Lenz, LENZ_HVAC. Only on the gram. Good spot to go find him. You can also find HVAC R&D on Instagram and TikTok as HVAC.R&D. Find us on LinkedIn, Trade Hounds, and Facebook as the HVAC R&D Podcast. Hopefully you're listening, so I won't repeat where all we can listen to it. But please make sure to follow the show, like us, rate us, leave us a review, share us with your trade crew. If you're interested in working with me and doing some things with the show, please reach out through the website, hvacrnd.com, and don't forget the discount code AHR for 25% off anything you guys order from the swag shop, whether it be hats, beer pong kit, sweet bottle openers, some Cajun Joe's Bayou Spice. Again, that was Dad's recipe. All the money that we make from Cajun Joe's goes to Mom and Dad. That's theirs, but that stuff is so damn good. You got to buy some. And if you need anything else, you can always reach out to me. I'll try to answer anything you guys send me on Instagram or through the email. Thanks so much for listening, Trade Crew. Y'all have a great week. Peace.